Good? Okay, sweet. may be Sydney Marathon Day in New South Wales, but here at Adenza Park there is another marathon upon which the eyes of Sydney football are fixed. The 30-round race that is NPL New South Wales. We're here at King Tom. There is still plenty to play for the home side. Two teams meeting on the final day with contrasting fortunes across 2026. One whose pathway forward is assured. St George FC know that the promotion relegation playoff awaits against the Northern Tigers. Whether or not they will be a going concern in the top flight remains to be decided. But on the other end of the equation, Sydney United's final place in 2026 is still very much alive. Will it be a break from midweek finals, pole vaulting Marconi Stallions into second today, or will it be a third place finish that will ensure that they enter at the elimination final stage? It is but one of the many fascinating questions that awaits on the final day of the season here on a splendid day of Sydney weather. You could not ask for a better footballing scene than this. Well, Sydney United will be hoping to get the job done with a squad that does feature a couple of rested faces and names with the possibility of midweek finals football in mind. But they will also have a keen eye on goings-on elsewhere, and there'll be Spirit supporters today hoping that they can get the job done against the Marconi Stallions elsewhere in New South Wales. The final day underway across the grounds here in Sydney. Pleasure to have your company for it wherever you are tuning in from. Lockie Flanagan with you as Sydney United look to get off to a hot start. As mentioned, their objective is a crystal clear one today. 3 points, and hope that Marconi Stallions have a stumble just 10 minutes down the road from here. And we'll, of course, do our level best to keep you abreast of all of the goings-on elsewhere around the final day's action. But the objective today for Sydney United is victory. Nothing else will do in their quest to qualify for the top two. Here's Bailey Rule on the ball, trying to pick up Mason Wells, lumped away by Jaden Casella. Crowd hoping for a bit more goal-scoring entertainment this week than the 0-0 draw here at King Tom a week ago that ultimately swung the premiership in favour of RPL Leichhardt's. A race in which Sydney United were a big part of in more ways than one, as that might drop here. Krislovic firing on the turn. Oh, and it was nearly a beautiful start for Sydney United. Rasping effort from Michael Krislovic. Not to be for the teenage striker who has so impressed in his first full senior season here at King Tom. Of course, one of those players who returned to this club for the championship campaign last year under then boss Ante Juric, and he's one of a number, including this man Farah Coco, who was signed for that period, and how different the club feels a little under 11 months removed. Nakano another. Miro Vlastelica, tenured coach of Sydney United, a silverware winning coach with Sydney United, as he has done again this season in the Waratah Cup. Has really righted the ship. And now going back to the Australian Championship with a wet sail. Potentially a championship. Played across for Farah Coco. Couldn't find a shooting angle. It was Well defended that time by Evan Souris. So first corner of the day coming for Sydney United. They will be keen to assert their authority on this contest as soon as possible. They want this to be a comfortable fixture, and they want spirits down the road to pile all the pressure on Marconi. Coco's corner, well struck, and had to be tipped away by a familiar name for Sydney United supporters today, Vedran Janjetovic. Back in goals for St George FC, having played for Sydney United on a number of occasions, but most recently last year coming out of retirement to play for them. Coco, Bailey Rule. He's got this in the locker, Bailey Rule, but that one a little bit short of his level best. It really has been remarkable, the turnaround Sydney United have enjoyed this season after such a, by their lofty standards at least, middling campaign. They did make the finals. They were ultimately eliminated by Marconi on penalties. Finals epic for the ages at Marconi Stadium. Not in the group stage in the championship, in a group where that really ought not to have happened. Farrakoko. Support inside in the form of young Josh Azzi, who is making his first Sydney United appearance since the reverse fixture back in May, which saw Sydney United emerge 3-1 winners against St George. Didn't quite drop it to the feet of Michael Kruslovic that time. Souris. Coco bringing the pressure. Poon losing out to the challenge of Nakano. Here's Koya Nakano's former club, against whom St George FC will be fighting for the right to play top flight football next season. Northern Tigers securing their place into the Pro-Rel playoff last night with a cruisy win against Western City Rangers. There is no movement on the table for the side from Barton Park today. They know their fates. They know that Sydney United below them are, for the first time in many a decade, short of relegation to League One. Souris. It's back to Vedran Janjetovic. Won by McGing, but dropped it right into the lap of Jaden Casella. It's Rockdale man. Toyuka. Casella. Had back-to-back wins going into this game. St George FC, unfortunately, a recent string of points not enough to rescue them from a nervy fate. It's that playoff tie, a two-legger. They'll have the home advantage in the second leg, but they will be facing a Tigers side in very strong form. Here's Mason Wells. Risky pass inside for Azzi, picking up the pieces. Dylan Rose sets a task for Wells. It'll drop two for Wells. His fast feet able to buy Sydney United an opportunity. Will there be a shot at the end of it, though? The answer is no. Mason Wells just a bit betwixt and between all of his options, and Lachlan Sepping was the player who was able to dive in and rid it from the toes of Mason Wells. No goals to bring you across the grounds as yet. Here comes St George, though, looking to build something. Sepping was sizing things up. And Farakoko comes in to restore possession to the visiting side. Coco. Azzy, oh, it's friendly fire between the St George players. And that might open the window of opportunity for Sydney United. Farakoko plays the cross in. Krislovic will it drop here? Wells across the crossbar, and Krislovic again. Somehow Vedran Janjetovic is able to gather. Well, Sydney United could not have come much closer to an opener there. A header wayward at the first instance from Michael Krislovic. Wells rifled it into the goal frame. And then the second attempt, not of the sequence, but for Michael Krislovic, was fired straight into the arms of Janjetovic, who was well positioned because there was a lot of meat behind the shot. And the upshot is that Rafael Costa, who was one of the two players involved in that collision that opened the space up for Sydney United to attack, remains down on the deck. And Sydney United really should have, you could make a fair argument, been the first side to score on the final day. Final day upon which there is so much to play, not for St George, as mentioned, but for a lot of other clubs around the grounds. It is a top six race for which there is still no less than 6 teams battling for the last 2 remaining final spots. And NWS Spirit is one of those teams, which means that Marconi are going to have their work cut out for them over at Marconi Stadium at the Palace, which is a fact that aids the cause of Sydney United on this important day. So Sydney United have gone awfully close. Is now the time to break through. Azzy inside and in. An 11th of the season in NPL New South Wales for Krislovic. And Sydney United do get the final day off to the ideal start. Over to you, Marconi at the Palace.
Sydney United, scored by number 19, Michael Krislovic.
And this
Sydney United 1.
Talented Sydney United youth products.
Progress scores from other grounds. NWS Spirit 1. Lead Marconi 0.
And the cheers ring around King Tom as news has reached Sydney United that 2 very important goals have just gone in 10 minutes down the road from one another. NWS Spirit hit the fronts against Marconi And Sydney United, through Michael Krislovich, have just done the same here against St George. So that is a potentially pivotal set of goals indeed. And now the Stallions really need a favour from St George, who have little, if anything, to play for. It has been quite the campaign for Michael Krislovich. 11 league goals. No mean feats whatsoever. St George look to build something here. Classy from Nakano. Talk about players blossoming and standing up over time. Nakano's done the same. Wasn't always, certainly showed flashes of quality. Koya Nakano in the Australian Championship when he signed for the Northern Tigers, but has really been able to display that with regularity this season. And he's got attacking ability as well. Koya Nakano being urged on by the fans. Nakano drags his shot in the end, but all the work he'd done in the lead-up, it deserves something. But not to be for the Japanese defender, who does have such a wide array of abilities in his bag of tricks. He's a player who, when he was playing for Northern Tigers, despite often being a central defender, playing on the left side of the back four today, had a knack for finding goals. Three for him. In the league this season. We can't forget, of course, his exploits in the Australia Cup a fortnight ago, scoring that spellbinding strike against Apia at Leichhardt Oval. Although for Sydney United fans, the less said about the final result, the better. Next set against NPL New South Wales opposition, one of the few blots you can put on their copybook this season. Of course, they beat the Mariners to get to the round of 16 in the first place. Here on penalties, a famous night for this storied club. Josh Azzi is the player who got the assist for Michael Krislovich's opening goal. He has picked up a free kick for his endeavour. On this occasion. So some big goals around the ground indeed on this final day of NPL New South Wales football. Those two have both come in Sydney's West, at the Palace and at King Tom. Two big goals for Sydney United indeed, as Wells Cross takes a touch, so Nakano will pick up the pieces. Farakoko. Is there an opening for him? Not quite. Back to his championship teammate in Vedran Janjerovic. Toyuka. Well, that's a delightful attempt to turn, at least, from Taylor Harrod. Mason Wells nearly left the ball behind there. Glassick. Wells. Azzy. He's got some nice passes today, and Bailey Rule has a bit of pasture. And Krislovic to look at. Whether he was trying to dummy it for a run that never arrived from one of his teammates or just missed the ball in play, you can make your mind up at home. It's a big, big job ahead of Marconi. Now they need St. George to potentially give them a helping hand, but they now need to come back from behind if they're going to take Sydney United's spot in the top two. Rule. Sydney United looking to double their money. Krislovic was the target. Wells. Tomilic. Endeavour won the day for Dylan Rose. How has he kept the ball there? Azzy, Krislovic, Azzy, Farakoko. St. George managed to get something in the way. Coco still scrapping though. Great fight from Sydney United. They refuse to let those half chances slip them by. Nakano, Azzy, Krislovic, Bailey Rule, and Krislovic again! It is Krislovic again. A delightful dozen for the season for him. And Sydney United double their money and have the top two firmly in their sights now.
Goal number 2 for Michael Krislovic. Sydney United
and
2,
they
St.
were
George
unrelenting.
Another
on
goal
that
from
occasion,
another
Sydney
ground.
United, they refused to be denied.
0. And it's still Spirit 1, Marconi 0.
Every 50-50 ball there, they kept fighting. Every half opening they pursued, and eventually they were rewarded. And in 30 games this NPL New South Wales season, of which he has only started 16, Michael Krislovic now has 12 goals in NPL New South Wales, which is a very tidy figure indeed. Sydney United, they really look up for this today. Wells inside, Krislovic, it couldn't, he goes to ground, penalty given. And this unstoppable Sydney United onslaught in the opening half could well be headlined by a blink of an eye hat-trick for Michael Krislovic. 21 minutes played. King Tom just ticked over to the 22nd. And the 22-year-old is staring down a breakneck hat-trick in front of his home supports. It's an iconic Sydney United name in Vedran Janjetovic against one whose star is rising, but it's saved brilliantly by Janjetovic and blazed over the top by Mason Wells. A big save from the experienced former Sydney United keeping veteran. And Michael Krislovic, well, he's still got plenty of time, but has been denied his hat-trick goal. So if you have chosen this game on one of your well, I hope as many screens today. You're certainly getting your money's worth in terms of entertainment value. 2 goals, both for Michael Krislovic. And a penalty saved by the veteran, inside just 22 minutes. Farakoko's ears would have been burning when the goal alerts were ringing out earlier. His former side, Manly United, have hit the front against the Wollongong Wolves, a goal that will, I dare say on the live ladder, assure them finals football. Plenty to be played out here on the final day. Nakano hunts Farakoko, finds Farakoko, and Justin Poon is forced to concede a corner. Now, the only game with multiple goals on the final day so far. It is a fixture that Sydney United have dominated as a top flight fixture. And it comes from Coco. That time it's all the way out for a goal kick. By my count, Sydney United have never lost to St George FC in the top flight of New South Wales football, a record stretching all the way back to 2014, one of the first years of the NPL. As form guide would have suggested, that is on course to continue. Miro Vlastelica said to motivate his side to pursue a midweek break in the finals. It has clearly worked because they have pursued this game with real interest and impetus. None of the painful patience that plagued them at points last season. This is a team operating with the bit between its teeth, and they are doing so with such big names on the bench. It is a technical area that includes Adrian Vlastelica, Carlos de Oliveira, Leroy Jennings, just to name a few. Poon. St George still want to show something. They could use some confidence going in to the fight of their lives. And it's lifted over the top here for Casella! And just wide. Nearly a piece of quality from a man you expect it from in Jaden Casella. It would have been against the flow, to say the least. But here's a man who can pop up with very short notice and in very significant style, Jaden Casella. That's going to sit up in the turf for Wells. What a pass it is. Rule, the onrushing fullback, lays it off. Farakoko, Krislovic off the underside of the crossbar. Well, after 2 goals in the opening 20 minutes, Michael Krislovic, you'd have thought that this was his lucky day, but maybe fate still has a bit to say. Coasted to the first 2 and has made tricky work of the third and most important, the one that every striker wants. But if they keep on creating chances like that, Sydney United, I have to think this Krislovic hat-trick is a matter of when and not if, not to put the almighty commentator's curse on him. Rafael Costa to Edmund Haddad. Former Western Sydney Wanderer. Picked off by Dylan Rose. Another standout this season. Azzy Krislovic. Azzy steals in on the ball. And Casella shows a nice clean touch just to take some of the pressure off from the captain. They've just been irrepressibly tenacious today so far, Sydney United. Pick up and under from Janjetovic. Nakano missed it in the air. Sepping prods it in the direction of Cunningham. He wriggles away and takes it quickly. Sepping. Costa. Justin Poon. Suris finds Sepkacic. And that's rather comfortable for Bailey Rule at the end of all of that. Got a little turn. That one from Edmund Haddad. He is a player who has certainly got that quality in his capacity. Just another big twist at the top end of the table on the final day. Sydney United have been solid at the back end of the season, where Marconi, prior to their recent back-to-back wins, have been stumbling. 4 losses in a row prior to that. Sepping and Casella atop the football. And Casella goes for it, but watched all the way by a man who's had very little to do today in Adam Pavlicic. Rule. Wells. Again, they go looking for Krislovic. Did that come off a hand? A big wave of the arms in denial from the referee. Poon. Sepping. Away by Glasic. Azzy continuing to get himself involved at every opening that looks like it might present itself. Poon. Just able to deal with most of what St George are offering with a minimum of fuss. In material terms, it is true that there's not much to play for St George today, but they are in danger here of being blown away by Sydney United, and you don't want to go into a 2-leg pro-rel playoff with a chastening loss lingering in the memory. Form and confidence going into crunch games like that, it really can make such a difference. We've seen how difficult it has been over the years for the team in the top flight, the hunted rather than the hunter, to actually stave off relegation in that playoff game. Only need to look to the Central Coast Mariners last year against SD Raiders. And they'll be happy to warn St George FC of the potential pitfalls that await. No such dramas for Sydney United. This day is going well and truly to script. Nakano. Still the Japanese defender. Azi couldn't quite return the favour and restore possession to Koya Nakano. Azi, space opens up. Krislovic. Is this the moment for him? Yes, it is! A hat-trick in the space of 35 minutes for Michael Krislovic, who is having a final day of dreams at King Tom. And so too is Sydney United.
35 minutes for Michael Krislovic!
3 to the good, and we've only just played a half hour's football.
St George 0. Progress scores from other grounds.
Prospect of a midweek rest and an avoidance of the first week of finals is looking all the more likely for Sydney United, and they have Michael Krislovic to thank. 3 of the best from this Sydney United young gun. He was made to work for the third, but the patience paid off. A missed penalty, a shot off the crossbar. It was third time's the charm for the third goal. Azi, Sydney United in the move now. He's been, to his credits, Josh Azi has been very unselfish today.
Rockdale have scored. Rockdale 1, lead Uni of New South Wales 0.
Three goals for Michael Krislovic. And it's a brace of assists for the youngster in Josh Azi. But the football is going to have to take a back seat at the moment here at King Tom. It looks as though something very untoward has happened over on the opposite side of the grounds. Seems to have been an incident in the stands that has brought play to a halt. I admit I did not catch it on the first instance, but there is a spectator who is being surrounded and receiving medical treatment over on the opposite side, so it's a very sad note in which this game currently lingers as football, as it should, takes a back seat. We hope everything is okay over on the far side. Several players who, including Jaden Casella, who dived into the stand to get medical equipment over to the social club side of the ground, where I believe a spectator is currently receiving some medical treatments. I'll bring you more updates as they come to hand, but it's very distressing viewing here at King Tom.
Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen, for this medical emergency in the crowd. Just a progress score from other grounds. Wanderers have scored. So Wanderers 1, lead Blacktown 0.
So just confirmation, in case you did not catch it over the PA system here at Sydney United, that we are currently observing a stoppage in play here on the final day for a medical incident that has occurred in the stands, an incident involving a spectator in the set of seats just in front of the social club.
Apia have just scored. Apia 1 leads St George City 0.
Football playing very much a secondary role at the moment. I believe the spectator in question is being seen to by quite a few members of the St George FC staff. I believe I can see St George FC captain Troy Danaskos, the head of the scenes, including their with the medical staff, I believe, who might be at the forefront of assisting with this issue. It did occur around the same time that a ball was cleared into the stands here at King Tom. Whether or not that had anything to do with it, I must admit I did not see. No, I believe, just having had a look at the replay, that the incident in question occurred beforehand. So it was back in the 36th minute of play. Vedran Janjetovic was taking a long kick into the sun. As that was about to happen, there were supporters signalling for immediate medical attention across to the far side, and after a brief break to bring about an understanding as to what had actually occurred, that support did eventually arrive. So continue to keep the supporter in our thoughts at the Sydney United Sports Centre, who...
Another progress score. Sutherland have just scored, so Sutherland 1 lead SD Raiders 0, and Rockdale have scored a second, so Rockdale 2 lead Union New South Wales 0. And it's half time at Sydney Olympic. It's Sydney Olympic 0, Sydney FC 0.
Looked after by...
And it's also half time at Wollongong, where it's Manly 3 leading Wollongong 0.
Those associated with St George FC. So while we wait...
Progress score from Marconi. Marconi 1, Spirit 1.
Treatment to be administered. And we'll do quick updates of results around the ground. If you were late to join us here, it is Sydney United 3-0 in the lead, courtesy of a hat-trick in 33 minutes for Michael Krislovic. RPL Leichhardt celebrating their premiership with a 1-0 win, or 1-0 lead as it currently stands, against St George City, one of the teams in the race for finals football. Definitely on the back foot now. Western Sydney and Blacktown City playing a bit of a dead rubber, but it is Western Sydney who lead at Valentine Sports Park. And a goal that just sets the nerves around the Sydney United supporters, as Marconi have equalised against NWS Spirits. Should Marconi convert that 1-0 scoreline into a win, it would see Marconi take second spot, back off the grip of Sydney United. Rockdale 2 to the good against Uni of New South Wales, so they're doing all they can in their quest to make the finals. They're an outside chance at the moment, though. Sydney FC and Spirits both on 41 points ahead of them. And Manly even further advanced, still but assured finals football now. 3-0 against the Wollongong Wolves. And finals football is not what many, if any, would have had in the plans in the first season for the kid. Well, I was going to say the men from Cromer Park, but a lot of them are very young, youthful players, kids from Cromer Park in their first season under Vlado Knezovic. Sydney FC and Sydney Olympic locked at 0-0 at the break there, while Sutherland really only played spoiler for SD Raiders' finals ambitions. Again, as things stand, it's about half-time in every other game. We did have a stoppage here at the 36 minutes. to deliver medical attention to a fan who's had a medical incident in the stands here at King Tom. The good news is that the emergency services look to have made their way to King Tom as well. You should be able to see at the top of your picture coming into view shortly the ambulance currently making its way into the driveway of the Sydney United Social Club. So a big amount of credit must go to those supporters over on the far side. In amongst the pack there are many wearing St George FC polos who have taken responsibility into their own hands until the medical staff can arrive. I've been able to hear through the effects mic a few seconds earlier the referee is giving the signal that play will be able to restart imminently. That's their expectation. So both sets of sides are back warming up here. Paramedics still have not made it into the stands as far as I can see. The ambulance has definitely arrived. Over on the left-hand side of the pitch in the corner, there was a gate opened up by Sydney United supporters to allow the ambulance to come through, but didn't go through that open driveway. They've instead pulled up next to the social club entrance, where there is another gate just on the right-hand side of your picture. Second ambulance arrived here at King Tom, and now the paramedics and the medical stretcher have arrived to the aid of this supporter. So we cross our fingers and toes that this is a sign that things could be and are going in the right direction here at King Tom. This is just not the scenes nor the sights that anyone is hoping for on this day or any day. And never at the football. It can spring so much joy and emotion, but that is all, rightfully so, taking a back seat at the present moment. So it looks as though while that medical incident continues in the stands, the referees have seen fit to negotiate a restart of football with both sides. So while the match itself will continue, we will still continue to keep an eye on that developing situation over on the far side, as an additional stretcher board is being brought across the ground to make itself available to the paramedics. And so it was at about the 36th minute the incident occurred, and it is at the 36th minute, after some 20 odd minutes of stoppage, we will resume here at King Tom. Thank you for bearing with us through what was obviously very, very distressing and sensitive and unfortunately ongoing situation here at King Tom. It's two sets of players who are going to be doing well to draw their attention back to the football. Game in which at present moment Sydney United are doing all they can to press their case for a top two finish. Casella. Vlasic, comfortably done to pick out Anthony Tomilich, the veteran of over 300 Sydney United appearances. Vlasic on the march. Couldn't quite pick out Miles that time. Could Bailey rule? I wonder what Michael Vlasic would be thinking about his former side, Sydney Olympic, with whom he won a premiership a couple of years ago under Ante Juric's disappointment this season. Suris. Poon. Casella, player who loves to float in games and pick up pockets of open space when they present themselves. Fast enough to get back in time to make anything of that. It's been hard to make any sense of the season that St George FC have had. They started the season 6 games unbeaten. Sydney United are looking for Krislovic again, as he cleared away by Casella. And Isaac Cunningham is guilty of giving away a free kick. This was a team that weren't just looking like finals contenders at the start of the season, St George FC. They were looking like potential Spirit-style shock premiers. 5 wins, 1 draw to start the year. Didn't concede a single goal in any of those games. Wells, a low clipper. He nearly broke the NPL New South Wales record for most consecutive clean sheets. And then when the dam wall burst with a 2-1 defeat to Marconi, it didn't break with grace or patience. It veritably had its hinges blown open. Apologies for the mixed metaphor. Consecutive losses after those opening 6 weeks of the season. And then when they did find a win to break the drought against NSW, it was 1 in 21 games, and by then the damage was done. Azzy. Farakoko off the post. And he was nearly the first of the day, Farakoko, to bring an end to Michael Krislovic's reign of goal-scoring dominance today. Would have been a goal to savour, that's for sure. Krislovic's three have very much been hard-working strikers' goals. No surprises there. That is exactly the kind of striker he has proved himself to be. For those concerned over on the sidelines, that medical incident still ongoing in the stands. It seems as though things have calmed a little bit, as he does brilliantly. He's been so good, the youngster. Just overcooks his pass in the direction of Michael Krislovic. Costa. Casella. Azzy. Farakoko. Given how he's played today, Josh Azzy, it's hard to believe this is his first appearance since the reverse fixture, just his third of the season. There's a gallivanting run forward from Isaac Cunningham. He's denied. Made his senior debut. Josh Azzy back in March. Rule. Gets the head down, cuts the ball in, didn't get a touch. It could have, maybe should have, on a different day, been a fourth for Michael Krislovic. Azzy. Another enterprising ball. Wells. It'll fall for him again, Mason Wells. Well defended in the end by Sebkacic. Formerly of Marconi, just down the road from here. Justin Poon. St George looking for something back, but Poon has overhit the cross. Casella. Sepping. Does well to hold off the advancing Koya Nakano. Casella. Back to Kota Toyuka. Krislovic given one to chase. Will he be able to barge his way past Toyuka? Very nearly did. The young defender had to have his wits about him that one away. Rule. Oh, what a run from the fullback. Denied by some desperate defending, a solo goal of some quality. The person in the stands in question is onto the medical stretcher and being helped to the ambulance at King Tom. As the corner comes in, Glassick gets up and the header out of play and out of danger. And after 65 minutes post kickoff, the referee will bring the first half to a close. A first half where, for large portions, football was very much the side story. A 20-minute stoppage in play
leads St. George 0.
Allow for treatment for an incident in the stands. But either side of that, it has been all Sydney United in their quest to take a top 2 spots out of the grasp of their local rivals, Marconi Stallions. 3-0 they lead, all courtesy of Michael Krislovich. A fantastic hat-trick has it paved the way for a top 2 finish in season 2026. That is all to be decided on the other side of the break. But here at halftime from King Tom, it is Sydney United 3, St George FC 0.
4th, Manly 5th, and Spirit 6th.
Every week, hundreds of thousands of people turn up around football grounds around New South Wales. Parents, kids, refs, coaches and volunteers. Cardiac incidents can happen to anyone at any time on the pitch.
Right now, not every club has a defibrillator.
And the ones that do are not always maintained or ready to use. In a critical moment, with a defib, that could save lives. That's why Football New South Wales, St John Ambulance and Toyota have come together for Every Beat Matters to help clubs around New South Wales to access defibrillators, cover maintenance and build a register so we know exactly where every unit is around the state. All you need to do is buy a ticket through Raffletix. $5 can make a difference. Every ticket goes towards funding defibrillators and maintenance for clubs that need it most. A live fundraising board shows exactly how much is being raised. And every ticket you buy puts you in the draw to win a Toyota Corolla. One ticket, real impact. Help your club be ready when it matters. So buy your ticket today.
For Fowler once again, heavy touch from Kunimoto will be punished here. Alfaro collecting possession, doing a great job. Adiensha now delivering low, falls there for Fowler through the legs, a chance to finish. Oh, Zach Fowler! Nothing foul about that. That is fresh. That is sweet. Good first effort here, potentially on the offering for Pelicanos, who didn't get anything onto it. Now Griffiths, lovely release. Constable for the corner. A cool, composed finish. Fowler can keep it in the field of play. Has a quick look. Space back through the middle. Big chance here for Glasson, who threads the needle and will claim it. It's gorgeous from Glasson. It's potentially glory for Sydney FC.
Through the left, here comes Choi. A burst of acceleration, he hits the byline. Nicolau with a header! Yanni Nicolau! The right back coming across the pitch into the penalty area, timing his run to perfection. Early ball, Hollingdale breaking out to the right flank. Riley Hollingdale, first time ball, McGowan making a low run and the tap in for Bonilla! Brilliantly worked by the Sutherland Sharks and they have a 2-0 lead. Here goes Solomon John Monaghan Viker. Score now, there's plenty of time to go for St George City. The ball is left by Mitri, the return pass, brilliant goal! Paolo Mitri! What a good team move from St George City.
And it's Ono now, again, towards the near post. And it's headed, and it's in there! Ono with the corner, Neuenhoff with the header. 22 minutes gone. They're shaping up now for this free kick. Burgess, very interestingly, is kneeling down directly in front of the wall. I'm not sure I've seen that one before. But the free kick now is going to be taken. It's driven. And it's beautifully driven into the bottom corner there. A fantastic free kick by Kakeru Ono.
Daru doing really well to keep that in, and he's found Noah Peacock in a bit of room. Peacock returning it to Ben Daru. It bounces awkwardly, and Daru is there again. Not to be denied twice. As Spirit take the lead in this crucial game.
What an opportunity for Jaden Casella to try and convert. Just 5 goals this league campaign. And it's saved by Henderson initially, and then Casella sticks in the rebound. Dream start for St George.
Keeping tight on Hernandez. It's still going for the Wolves though. Here's Lachlan Scott. Looks to play it across. And the Wollongong Wolves have the lead. It's an own goal. Vidakovic under pressure from Mashivecchio, who's won the ball in a great position. Hernandez goes for a shot and finds the goal. Wollongong have a 2-goal lead. Calamity at the back for Western Sydney. Breaks away down the right. Can the Wolves really put themselves in a good position? Here's Beattie with a shot, which finds the bottom corner, and Wollongong have their third.
Found Busek, who found Yona. And Olympic are hanging on, but it might be ended here. Is that the goal that relegates Sydney Olympic and sees Marconi go into the top 2? It's Ahmed Elahu.
Welcome back to the Sydney United Sports Centre. Second half of the final day's play between Sydney United and St George FC. It's currently Sydney United sitting pretty in their quest to pinch a top 2 spot from local rivals Marconi Stallions. 3 to the good. And Marconi with the work to do, currently locked at 1 apiece against the NWS Spirits in the 56th minute. They need to win that game to deny Sydney United a top 2 spot.
St George City 2, now lead Apia 1.
Sydney United we need to put...
we have Sydney FC leading Sydney Olympic 1-0, so Sydney FC are now in 6th position.
No shortage of goals. So still a bit to play here at King Tom. It will be the game that, despite every one of them kicking off concurrently, will finish last. We did have a 20-minute break in play after a medical incident in the crowd, which I have been informed by a man I believe to be the match commissioner here at King Tom was a medical episode for a member of the St George FC under-20s. As the word from the match commissioner was a seizure, but it was just the word, not confirmed direct from the source fact, but it was definitely a member of the St George 20s team who was the victim of that medical incident, hence all the players and officials in St George gear who surrounded them for the duration of that 20-minute break while the paramedics tended to him. I'm told that he ended up getting into the ambulance on his own 2 feet, so great that that was not as bad as it initially seemed. He's given away the free kick here, but aside from that medical episode, Michael Krislovic was the main story of the season. A hat-trick in the space of 32 minutes at King Tom for the 22-year-old to take him to 13 in the league for season 2026, his first full as a senior player, having returned to the club for the Australian Championship last year from the Bulls Academy. Bailey Rule. Mason Wells drops the shoulder, cuts the ball back, and was looking for Krislovic, who will be hoping to add to his tally. Good cross. Krislovic was lurking. Farakoko collects. It's back to Nakano. Dylan Rose. Big block. Classic. McGing. Nakano trying to engage them into play with Farakoko, whose old club Manly United are well on track for an previously, at the start of the season at least, unforeseen return to finals football. For the first time since 2022. wasn't announced over the PA system here at Sydney United, nor by the board of a fourth official, but I do believe we have had a substitution in goals for St George FC at the break. Bring you confirmation of that shortly. By my reckoning, Sebastian Laluz has come on at half-time in place of Vedran Janjetovic. Also seen Sebastian Kucic come off at the break as well. Looks as though George Kontrakis is his replacement in the centre of defence. Task set for Mason Wells. Just a task a fraction too tall for him. George Kontrakis is the substitute who's come on alongside Sebastian Laluz. First appearance of the season for Kontrakis. First since his NPL New South Wales debut for St George FC almost a year ago to the day, on the final day last season, a 2-1 loss to Manly United. Farah Coco scoring both goals for Manly. There is the man we were just talking about, Farah Coco on the ball. Took a fifth goal of the season today. Scored at the start of August. Home to Spirits. Kontrakis. Surus. Poon. Back to Laluz. Goalkeeper has been a frustrating position for St George FC this season. This is Laluz's first appearance since the 18th of July, but if memory serves me correctly, he started one of the opening games. In fact, it was the opening game, round one for St George, in place of Nick Soros, who has been beset by injuries this year. Josh Azzi, one of Sydney United's best and brightest today, the youngster. Rule. Wells. Back to Wells. His fancy footwork on display again. Couldn't quite wrap his boot around the ball fully. And that will be punted away. Rafael Costa. Bailey Rule. Sydney United still want more goals. Dylan Rose. Nakano. Options to aim at. Bailey Rule. It was nearly fullback to fullback for a fourth. And a very solid save from the substitute keeper, Laluz. Keeps the score to 3. That would have been a goal to emphasise the increased attacking fluidity and freedom of movement they've had this season, Sydney United. Coco's corner, Krislovic got up, didn't get near. And what's the decision here? It's a corner on the opposite side. United take it short. Rule. Nakano, well-disguised pass, Mason Wells. Trying to catch Lalouche out at the near post. It was a task to which the fill-in keeper was equal. He made as many saves as Vedran Janjetovic. It's a second successive short corner for Sydney United. Rules delivery. Nakano, what control! No finish to match the quality of the touch that preceded it. Sydney United are peppering at the present moment. Perhaps they know that if Marconi hit the front, they will need to score another 5 goals. The clipper from Wells was in search of Krislovic. And that's lumped clear by Kotranakis. Rose. It's the kind of ball that King Tom could hold up in the turf, but it didn't in the end. I'm just running my brain rapidly across the maths. Were Marconi to go on to win their game, that would take them to 64 points alongside Sydney United. They would have a superior goal difference of plus 29 to presently Sydney United's plus 24. So Sydney United would actually need to win 9-0. Because Marconi, if the goal differences were to be level, Marconi would still be ahead on goals scored. So 9 would be the magic number. That's a pretty tall task. They need NWS Spirit to hold firm down the road. Make their life a lot easier. As things stand in the finals, would have a never-before-seen, just as I remember it, turn of events. An A-League Academy team in the top 6 as Poon puts the power down. Gets it back to Souris. The Sydney FC are sitting in 6th. 2 points clear of NWS Spirit in 7th. So the only way Spirit could change their fortunes and secure finals is by turning that 1-1 scoreline with Marconi back into a lead. What a touch from Azzi. Just opened up the space like it was nothing. But undid a lot of that good work by putting too much power on the pass for Krislovic. So his final 2 coveted places in what for the vast majority of the latter stages of the season has been a 7-team race for the last 2 spots in the top 6. Looks like it is going to be Manly United and for the first time ever Sydney FC. Bearing in mind that none of those other games have had a 20-minute medical stoppage, so they are far closer to finishing than the one here. We've played just an hour. Most of the other games are at the 70th minute or further forward. Boy, oh boy. We are about to get a
quadruple substitution for Sydney United. Coming on is number 7
for Sydney United.
Leroy Jennings.
So,
number 10,
bear with
Carlos
me here
Oliveira.
On come
Number
Leroy
47,
Jennings,
Christian
Gabriel
Aldieri,
Tillo,
and
Carlos
number 12, Gabriel
D'Oliveira,
Tillo.
Adrian Vlastelica.
Oh, and skip as well, number 4, Adrian
And the lucky
Vlastelica as well.
last substitute,
Ladies
Christian
and gentlemen, please
Lardieri.
give captain of today, Anthony Tomilic, a big round of applause as he
Josh
jumps on the
Azzi,
pitch
Michael
as well.
Krislovich, the hat-trick hero, Mason Wells, Farah Coco, and Anthony Tomilic. So we got there in the end, all 5 out of the way. And so much so that it caught the ground announcer off guard as well. Skip. Adrian Vlastelica coming on 2. And by comparison, the normalcy of just 1 change for St George FC, their mid-season acquisition, Toshiki Makimoto, coming onto the field. So we got there in the end. And I wonder how this game is going to change in 20 minutes' time, should the results around the ground hold. Rule. Good ball in, and D'Oliveira. That was the effort of a substitute who's only just been injected into the game. Good fortunes when it comes to scoring against St George FC, though. Carlos D'Oliveira scored in each of the last 2 seasons against St George for Sydney United, including in their most recent head-to-head meeting. Game in which Adrian Vlastelica was also a scorer. Alouche launches it long, just in the air by Nakano. Poon did really well. Get that away from all the interested parties. Classic. Here's one of the quintuple substitutes, Leroy Jennings, always fleet of foot. It's a tantalising cutback, but it could only find Navy St George shirts. Rule. It's the beating of his opponent in Taylor Harrod. A well-earned free kick for the fullback. Driven in low. So clear by Isaac Cunningham, the former Spirits and Rydalmere man. It's going to drop for D'Oliveira. And now Lardieri. And a goal for the youngster, Christian Lardieri. Played 19 minutes all year. Christian Lardieri back in a Sydney United senior shirt for the first time since April 18 against Spirits. Sipping. Robbed with the ball by the tireless Dylan Rose. D'Oliveira over the shoulder. He waited to find him. Picks out Leroy Jennings instead. Jennings can only put his cross right into the midst of Sebastian Lalouche. We haven't got a second screen up. We should get a second screen up for the final 15 minutes down the road at Marconi. 75 minutes played at the Palace, still locked at 1 apiece. That is the game on which Sydney United's top 2 hopes currently rest, because they've done, short of winning 9-0, everything they could so far today. Kotranakis clears. Sent back in the opposite direction by Vlastelica and then Rose. Vlasic completely missed it in the air. Nice drop of the shoulder. Really good run that's forward. Poon was offside though. Nice movement from Makimoto, who has travelled an interesting path. The Japanese attacker, previously of Western Springs in New Zealand, and then playing in Mongolia prior to that. Tillo's early ball comfortably dealt with. Rose always finds a way to win them back. Rule. Classic. Jennings. Tillo has form. 4 goals against St George. His first senior goal came against him at this venue in some style last season, the 17-year-old. Jennings. Sydney United have put together nearly 15 passes here without losing the ball. Vlastelica will be dancing a jig if this ends with a goal, but the commentator's curse has struck. Poor pass in the end from Carlos de Oliveira.
Sydney Olympic have equalised. It's 1-1. Sydney Olympic 1, Sydney FC
goal
1.
Over the PA system here.
Manly 4 lead Wollongong 0, and it's still 1-1 with Marconi
Sydney
and
Olympics
Spirit.
equaliser on the live ladder knocks Sydney FC out of the final. Spirit's back in. And that is Spirit back in on the live ladder regardless of whether they turn their 1-1 draw into a win against Marconi. That would only assure it. And that Sydney Olympic game is one of the furthest along. That one's nearly over. Tillo on the charge, searching for a cutback or a shooting angle for himself, and have to wonder if Gabriel Tillo just got caught betwixt and between both options. And my memory was serving me correctly. It was a goal here against St George FC on senior debut as a 16-year-old August last year that got this special Gabriel Tillo story started. Player so good that he was called into the young Socceroos out of the NPL system, which is particularly at under 20s level. You do see it maybe more common at junior national teams, but it's very rare these days. Even at that age, so much of the talent is hoovered up by an A-League academy. Well, they get hoovered up by an A-League academy. Sydney United, in New South Wales at least, is so often one of the clubs where it all starts. Relentless production of talent. 10 minutes to go between Marconi and NWS Spirits down the road. Still 1-1. 20 minutes to go here at King Tom, and it is Sydney United still.
Progress score from Apia. Apia 3 leads St. George City 2.
In their 3-0 lead that they took into the break, courtesy of Michael Krislevich's first half hat-trick. Oh, what a touch from De Oliveira. What a finish too. Oh, he is just always top quality, Carlos De Oliveira. And it's a fancy fourth to keep this fine day ticking for Sydney United.
We go ballistic as number 10, Carlos De Oliveira, has scored the 4th goal for Sydney United this afternoon. Sydney United 4 leads St. George 0.
Quality from start to finish from Carlos De Oliveira. He's got his 6th of the season in NPL New South Wales for Sydney United. They have still got the attitude and aptitude for more. Cunningham denied by a brilliant sliding tackle from McGing, although he's come a cropper in the aftermath. Tillo. Back to Nakano. Rose glides through the onrushing traffic. Oh, what a player. What a player. He has just been immense in his first full season for Sydney United out of the Sydney FC Academy. Rose. De Oliveira. Great pass, but in comes Kotranakis. It was nearly a brilliant crowd catch on the Sydney United bench. Tillo. Cross flicked on by Lardieri. Out of play for a goal kick. And the fourth officials found the board now that there's just the one substitute to worry about. Isaac Cunningham coming off for Harrison Farrow.
Coming on for St. George, number 25, Harrison Farrow.
Player who very similarly to St. George City, somewhat talismanic in some ways, started the season like a house on fire with 3 goals in the opening 6, some big goals as well. He now hasn't scored since round 5. It's 18th appearance off the bench of the year for him. Nakano. Tillo. Sydney United putting plenty of numbers in the box. Rose. De Oliveira. Nakano. Really got it inside for Leroy Jennings. Tillo initially outmuscled by Souris. And Souris, well, couldn't even disguise that. He knew he had his pocket picked and tried to bring the youngster to ground. Or did bring the youngster to ground, and the referee spotted it straight away. The free kick comes in. Fisted away by Lalouche. Tillo got contact, but it was not of the most convincing nature. Pavlicic. Other than one great chance from Jaden Casella, with Sydney United 2-0 in the clear, Adam Pavlicic has been a spectator. Jennings. Ooh, offside. It's unfortunate. So regardless of what position they are to finish in. Still a live question. Sydney United are all but certain to go into the finals, 4 games unbeaten.
Apia scored again, so it's Apia 4, St. George City 2.
With just 1 loss. 2 losses in their last 10. 1 loss, not including the lottery of penalties in the Australia Cup against Apia. So 1 open play loss, I guess you could say. Very good form to be taking into finals, particularly if you're going to get a week's break, or a mid-week's break in the case of NPL New South Wales. So it would actually be a replay if the ladder ended as it is now. Marconi and Spirit would play again. Lovely lifter for Bailey Rule, and it's a 5th, or not. Bounces the right side of the crossbar from a St. George persuasion. And Lalouche is lucky. And little more as to why it's not a 5th at King Tom. Again, it was another patch of play that merited a goal. It was nearly a quick-fire double for De Oliveira, who positively rifled his effort into the woodwork. Nakano, Leroy Jennings, De Oliveira, great block. Nakano, De Oliveira again, he was not to be denied. And it is eventually a quick-fire De Oliveira double.
For Carlos De Oliveira.
And 5 for a 5-star Sydney United.
5 lead St. George 0.
A goal that is nothing short of the summary of the day's play for them. Unrelenting, irrepressible, and largely, but for the woodwork, unstoppable. They have gone at their task today like a dog with a very large and tantalizing bone. And Carlos De Oliveira has picked up where the hat-trick hero Michael Krislovich left off. Every time they've scored, you've never gotten the sense that Sydney United want to slow down today. Still dictating terms against a St. George FC side who are going to be walking into the Pro Rel playoff against Northern Tigers with a heavy defeat. Nakano wins his own cross back. Koya Nakano. Now Harrison Farrow has picked up that hopeful one over the top. Stepping shorts. Farrow's managed to keep it in his grasp. Again, it's quality footwork from Makimoto. Poon. Haddad. Not too much from Edmund Haddad. And the ball releases Leroy Jennings. Triumvirate of red shirts over on the far side. Jennings can only find the boots of the substitute Kotranakis. They've been effervescent today, Sydney United. Dare I say it, it's been... And this is not necessarily a knock on St. George FC. There is no reason for them to go for this game today. If anything, they want to keep themselves safe and secure and all eyes on the Pro Rel playoff, but It's been very notable which team has had something to play for today and which team hasn't. Sydney United can nearly celebrate a top 2 finish. 1 minute, or rather it's into stoppage time now at Marconi. Jennings, his cross headed clear. Farrow again given one to chase, but he is very much a lone hand at the present moments. Jennings, lovely angle ball for Rule. And it falls at the feet of Jennings. De Oliveira was sizing up a hat-trick off the bench. Lardieri. Rose. Brings some calm to the proceedings, as is customary for him. Tillo drops the shoulder. Burns his marker. Brilliant from Tillo. No goal to go with all of the fancy footwork. From De Oliveira, Glasic's header, watched all the way by Lalouche. He won't be in any mistake as to when full-time sounds at Marconi Stadium to potentially, as we sit, confirm Sydney United's top 2 finish. The PA system doesn't have that many speakers on it to not announce things like this, as Jennings rides the challenge with quality, and it's nearly turned in for a 6th. Jennings appeals. The ball was over the line by way of an own goal, but the assistant referee had other ideas. Farrow ploughing a lone furrow. Eventually support is found in the form of Lachlan Sepping. Justin Poon picks out Farrow. Poon just hasn't been their day, St George. Didn't even get a chance to mention the other potential final we've got. Glasic. De Oliveira, he couldn't, could he? Oh, he nearly did. Chance still alive for De Oliveira. Held back to Tillo, who can hit them. And did, but didn't get the dip. He showed us that he's got that in the locker on debut against St George a year ago. And against Sutherland for one of his goals earlier this season. Carlos De Oliveira. Nearly had a hat-trick in a similar time frame to that of Michael Krislovic. Scored in the 72nd, 78th minutes. Nearly had a hat-trick in the 82nd. Tillo doesn't half shy away from shooting. Confidence beyond the years, certainly a phrase that springs to mind when you talk of Gabriel Tillo. De Oliveira's delivery, Glasic's there, and this time he does get his goal. 6-0 Sydney United. And this is set to be a delightful final day indeed for the boys from Adenza Park.
Goal for Michael Glasic. Sydney United 6 leads St George 0.
It took a while for that one Michael Glasek. Since late March, away to Rockdale as he found the back of the nets for Sydney United in league play. And all of a sudden that 9-0 insurance policy that Sydney United would need if Marconi were to the win is not beyond the realms of possibility. Now, that said, Jennings plays it across the face of goal. That said, it is the 5th minute of stoppage at Marconi Stadium, and it is still 1-1. Spirit on the attack as well. Stop short of commentating a game you are not watching, but definitely if you've got a second screen at your disposal, get on the final seconds while you still can. There is nervous anticipation here. Never has the full-time whistle at another ground been so desired. Sepping. Nipped in the bud by Bailey Rule. It's a ball. Brilliant from Lardieri. Jennings. Awkward stabber for Kotranakis. 6 minutes of stoppage. It's the 97th minute at the Palace.
Just gone full time at Marconi, and that's ended 1-1. So Sydney United have finished second. So that means we don't have to play elimination Wednesday night. We play next weekend.
Oliveira's delivery. And the crowd has told you the story there. Full time at Marconi Stadium. Marconi 1, NWS Spirit 1. And that means Sydney United have wrapped up a top 2 finish. Nakano down the throat of Laluge. And all Sydney United have to do is hold on to their 6-0 lead with 3 minutes to play. So, unless St George FC have got a remontada in them, the like of which we have never seen and probably would never see again, Sydney United are locked in for the top 2. Spirit have done them a favour. And Sydney United have more than upheld their end of the bargain today. Toyuka brings Rule to ground, and the young defender picks up a ticket. And the other part of that goal, very importantly, is that NWS Spirit have just locked themselves in to finals football. So the top 6 and its placings are now locked in. Apia, the premiers, enshrining their ascendancy with a 4-2 win against St George City. Sydney United, the other team who will have the week off. Marconi will play Spirit again in midweek this week. And Sutherland will host Manly United in the first round of finals. Nakano
full time around the grounds.
Nearly uncorked something seriously special.
1. Apia 4 defeated St George 2.
So all the other games around the grounds
New South Wales 0
are now complete.
Western Sydney Wanderers 2 have defeated Blacktown 1. Manly 4 have defeated Wollongong 0.
Confirmation again of that
Sydney
top
Olympic
6.
1,
Apia, Sydney United, Marconi,
1,
Sutherland, Manly,
and of course
NWS Spirit.
And Spirit have finished 1-1.
Marconi v Spirit, Sutherland v Manly, your 2 midweek elimination finals. Apia and Sydney United, the teams who await in the preliminaries. Sydney United, of course, would play the highest ranked finisher of that pack. 2 minutes of stoppage here to close out the regular season. And Sydney United find a 7th to see us out. St George FC's year will continue, of course, not in the way that they would have wanted. Northern Tigers awaits in the Pro Rel playoff. Football New South Wales League One's Nearly Men who have flirted with top flight ascension for so long. Northern Tigers, a team who Sydney United have been the nemesis of in cup football over the years, both Waratah and Australia last year. That's the challenge that lies before St George FC. Rose. Can Sydney United send their season off, their regular season off, with a 7th goal? Can they send the regular season off with a stoppage time goal? They don't need to, and must be said, I think they've dropped anchor a little bit after finding out the full-time score at Marconi. So too they should. They have earned their rights. Headlined by imperious home form this season, set to be their 11th win from 15. Picks up 35 of a possible 45 points.
After 30 rounds, congratulations to Sydney United.
And so ends the season 2026 regular season in NPL New South Wales. It took a bit of extra time here at King Tom, but for those of a Sydney United persuasion, it was worth the wait. A swashbuckling 6-0 win to secure a top 2 finish and a midweek break in the first round of finals. Marconi are the team who miss out. They go into midweek action, an eliminator.
Manly 5th and Northwestern Sydney Spirit 6th. Happy birthday to the Bailey Rule as well. And well done,
NWS Spirits.
Well done to Miro, Glastelitsa and his Sydney United team. And good luck in the semi-finals. Let's go United all the way to the grand final.
Sutherland will play Manly in midweek. But Sydney United have sent off the regular season in style. A first-half hat-trick for Michael Krislovic, built on by a delightful double from Carlos de Oliveira before Michael Glassick put the seal on it. And as the music rings out, that is as good a note on which to end the regular season here from myself, Lockie Flanagan, and the production crew. It's goodbye for now. Sydney United 6, St George FC 0. We'll see you all for finals football and the Pro Rel playoff.